Actually, you're probably
I'm
too
just
tall.
kidding. Yeah.
We good, Jeff? Welcome back. We're thrilled to be with world #1, Scottie Scheffler. Scottie, talk a little bit about your impressions of the golf course so far and just being here at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, golf course is in good shape. I was here in 2013. The course has changed a bit since then, but I think they're mostly good changes, and should be a good test. The greens are nice and firm. It seems like the weather's going to be good for the rest of the week, and so rough is healthy per usual.
Per the usual, you know, you played well in USGA events in the past. What is it about these weeks that kind of sets itself apart?
I like the challenge. I think these events are really hard, obviously, and for me, I think it's kind of fun just challenging yourself like that. And this style of golf, I think, really suits how I play and suits mentally how I approach tournaments. And so for me, I'm excited for this week and getting started.
We're going to go here to Brentley.
Was there anything that kind of sticks out about 2013? I know that's kind of been a while ago now, but is there anything that, like, if you were at dinner and had to tell a story about 2013, what would come up?
No, I mean, that was a really cool event for me. I'd won the U.S. Junior that year. It was a really cool year for me in golf. I have great memories of this tournament. I have good memories. I was walking around with my coach here in 2013, and he was here in '99 when Justin made the putt, and he was teaching Justin at the time. So we both have great memories of this place. And I remember being down in pretty much all my matches and coming back on the 3 that I won. I came back late on all of them, and you know, I think I made a big putt against maybe Brandon Hagee, somebody. I think it may have been Brandon on 17, but I have good memories of this place. It was a lot of fun.
Who'd you lose to?
Brady Watt. Yeah, he made. I remember I plugged it in the bunker short on 18. I think I ended up making bogey, and he made a nice little 4-footer for par to beat me.
We're going to go to Dan right here.
How much do you look at statistics, and how much is that, if at all, part of your preparation process?
You know, I mean, I look at them. I'm not one of those guys that dives too deep into them. For me, most of the time when I have dove into the stats, it matched up with pretty much what I was feeling. And so for me, I've always been a guy that approaches things with how I'm feeling versus what the stats say. And fortunately, for the most part, they've always kind of lined up.
And then when you're at a new golf course, are you diving through the yardage book, looking at how far things run out, or is it more just get out there, hit shots, and see where they end up?
I think a lot of it is hit shots where they end up. Golf's not really a perfect science for me. Teddy does a lot of the prep work, and so, like, for instance, when I showed up here yesterday, he pretty much knew exactly what he thought we should do on each hole, and then we kind of go from there and discuss things.
Continue down here.
Just veering off topic a little bit, you know, you're in New England, you participate in the Northeast Amateur, just your memories of that tournament and how much maybe that ranks in maybe your development as a player.
Yeah, I remember I always stayed right across the street. That was always a fun event for us. I spent a lot of time on that practice putting green, just having putting contests with people because my house was 100 yards away, and so I just pretty much hung out there all day. And that golf course is fantastic. I think you learn a lot playing those types of courses where you stand there on the first tee and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to rip this place up, and then like 5 under wins the tournament. And so those are always fun, kind of frustrating tests for us.
We're going to go here to Beth Ann on the right.
Yeah, you played a practice round with Travis Fick. I'm just curious what your impressions are of him, and if there was anyone you played a practice round with when you were an amateur that was significant to you.
Yeah, so that's something I'm always going to try and do, because when I think I played 2 as an AM in 16 and 17, and I got to play practice round with Jordan at the time and then Dustin at the time, which was really cool. I got to learn a lot, mostly just by watching those guys, how they prepare for golf courses, the type of shots they hit, how they practice around the greens and stuff like that. And so for me, I learned a ton just by being able to sit there and be a spectator. And so playing with Travis, that's something I'm always going to try and do, just because I learned so much. And so hopefully, you know, he'll be able to learn a little something from me. But it's definitely fun. He's a fantastic player. He's really talented, and as we saw a couple weeks ago, he plays really good under pressure as well. So that's an important skill to have when you come out here on tour.
Thank you.
On your left, Sean, and then Brentley.
Hey, obviously it's a little bit, you're hoping to play all 4 days here, but if you were a fan and you were coming here and having a beer with your buddies, just you knowing the course, where would you like to watch it?
That's a good question. I'd probably get here early and I'd walk it. If I hadn't been here before, I'd probably come out and walk the course. Just maybe watch one of the early groups, maybe where there's not too many people, and just kind of get to see everything. And then I don't know. There's so many good holes out here. I could post up on 8. I could post up on 10 and 11, kind of out there by the green, watch shots going into 11, watch shots coming into 10, see some carnage on number 10, and then maybe a few lower scores on number 11. But I mean, there's a lot of good spots out there.
Brentley.
Talking a little bit about Travis, you spent some time with him a couple weeks ago too. Is there maybe one piece of advice that you've tried to give him as he prepares for his first tour event, let alone major?
Yeah, I think always good advice for people, and how I try and approach things is not really take yourself too seriously and just try and get a little bit better at a time. I find a lot of guys really just try and make these quantum leaps where it's like, oh, I'm going to make this swing change and it's going to totally change my game. And that whole kind of rebuilding process, I think, has a tendency to really hurt guys. And so for me, I always try to get a little bit incrementally better over time versus making these kind of drastic changes to improve a ton at once. And then don't take yourself too seriously, because you're going to hit really, really bad shots. And it's not all about hitting perfect golf shots. It's about managing your misses and responding to those. And I think at Cameron Smith, at the Players, like the way he played number 18 is not how he's typically going to play that hole. He's not. If he's going to make bogey to win, what are the odds he's going to lay up into the water? But that's not what defines how he won that golf tournament. It's defined by that wedge shot he hit in there to 2 feet. And so it's more about how you respond to things than the mistakes that you make.
Did you show him anything short game wise yesterday, or?
He kind of followed me around a little bit around the greens, but he didn't ask any specific questions. Travis isn't a super talkative guy, and so I figured he's kind of like me, where he'll just learn a lot just kind of by watching and picking up on certain things.
Stay here on your left.
Hey, Scottie, wanted to ask you about your fellow Dallas resident, Will Zalatoris, and he's been in contention at the last 8 majors, it feels like. Wondering what you see in him mentally, emotionally, maybe, that's allowed him to kind of always be up at the top in events like these.
Yeah, I mean, Will, he's a guy, he's a really confident guy. He has a lot of confidence in his ball striking. He hits it so good. And I think that's what separates guys at these tournaments, is having that ability to hit all different kinds of shots. And so Will is definitely a player that has that skill. And obviously it's really paid off for him in the majors, and I'm sure you're not going to see him out of contention anytime soon.
Going back to the PGA, you missed the cut there, and you hadn't missed a cut major for a while before that. I'm wondering, what do you make of that? What do you do after that? Do you kind of just push it to the side and say, okay, we move on, or are you kind of analyzing what happened there at that stage? How do you kind of go about?
I think you can learn anything from that kind of, just really failure. I think that's always a good learning time. And so for me, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? How could I ever miss a cut? What's going on? But kind of just sitting back and looking and being like, well, I could have approached this differently. Mentally, I could have been a little bit different approaching this shot. And it's more stuff like that versus like, oh man, I missed the cut. What am I doing out here? I got all these things to work on. It was more just kind of sitting back and saying, you know what, I could have been better mentally here and here. And other than that, that could have changed the tournament for me. And so just little changes. It's nothing big. And, I was able to have a nice reset after that and play good the following week.
We're going to go here on your right.
Hey, Scottie, what are your thoughts on the closing stretch here, especially 17?
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's a nice stretch. You play 15, which is a really difficult hole. I'm trying to remember the routing, because our routing was different for us. 14 is now a par 5, which you can get at, but it's a pretty hard par 5. And then 16 is a really good par 3. 17 being a short hole where it's kind of a birdie bogey, and then 18, if you get it in play or in the fairway off the tee, it's a good birdie opportunity. And so I think it's really cool. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of those golf courses where there's always hazards kind of coming down the stretch. For me, it seems more classic of a golf course like this one, where it's just rough and bunkers, and it's more of a birdie bogey type of situation. And I think that's kind of a really cool style of golf.
Great. Thanks for your time, Scottie. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scottie.